El siguiente programa es una producción independiente. Las opiniones, comentarios y expresiones del mismo no representan necesariamente las políticas institucionales de Doral Voice ni de sus patrocinadores.
Hi, this is Ruben Alcoba. Thanks again for being here on a Tuesday at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm here today with MJ Julian. He's a very well-to-do inventor, businessman, accountant, CPA. In other words, he's done the whole thing. He's gone all the way to the top. Before I start, I'd like to thank Doral Voice, the community, the Esquivel family for allowing me to share Mr. Julian's experience with you and help you somehow develop your invention and maybe not only just take it, sell it on Amazon, but maybe build a company, maybe take it public, maybe be able to build a company, maybe sell the company. You're going to get a lot of knowledge today. I'm very happy to be here with MJ Julian. MJ, please tell me a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Well, thanks for having me, Ruben. I've always been a fan of a great patent attorney, one of the best ones that I've ever met, and he's helped me out a few times. My background is I'm a CPA. I worked at a big accounting firm for a while, and then I went with a group of guys. We got into buying and selling companies, and from that time till now, I bought over 30, either for myself or for others. I got into inventing on one of the companies that we ended up purchasing. Actually, I bought on my own. And what happened was a group of sales reps, there were actually two sales reps that were going out to compete with the company, and I found out about it after I bought the company. And then what happened is I had to figure out a way to be able to compete with them, so that's how I got into inventing. That was around 2000. And since that time, I've made over 60 products that actually sell in the market that make money, and another 150 that's either in the closet or didn't sell or for one reason or another, and probably done hundreds of joint ventures along the way.
I mean, in that short synopsis, there's so many different ways we can go here. But I guess the first thing we have to do is, first of all, so you were in this company, and because of what happened with sales rep, they took the products you were selling and then they went their own way, and then they ended up being your worst enemy. Is that what happened here?
That's correct. So we had a massager that we actually sold all the way till COVID in the trade shows market until it changed a little bit. So it was a kind of a unique one, but there was no patent on it. There was no protection on that particular item. So they basically went to another company overseas. They got it knocked off, and then they came over here and started selling. So they would show up at the same booth that we did. So I had to do something. So I couldn't run and hide because I just bought the business. So I had to figure out a way to put more parts, pieces, and attachments to it to be able to patent that particular unit and put it in a nice case. So when they went there, we looked a lot more of a better type of product.
Prior to that moment, did you ever think about inventing? Did you have this air of invention about you, or no? It's just the need caused the cause and effect.
No, I think it's a lot of times we all are inventors, right? A new idea, a new thing, new this, to where we're thinking of this, whether it's a new handle for a door, whatever the case may be. It's something I think that we all do. But as far as being able to bridge that from what I actually think to actually be able to make it into a real product is kind of, I think, the breakthrough. So from my standpoint, I never thought of it as a career. I thought of it more of the standpoint of being able to take that playing around to actually make the product. But when I got, my back was against the wall, I didn't have much of a choice. I had to come out and actually make a product to be able to protect the company.
Now, I got a question. Now, before, so this happens out of need, but before that, you're a very successful CPA working for Fortune 500 companies. What's going on? Tell me.
So I've always been on the creative side. So I was before I became a CPA, I was actually in the military, and then after I got out of that, I went into school, became a CPA, and I'm working in the CPA world, which I worked for a big accounting firm, and it was kind of one of those things that really wasn't my thing. I didn't like the corporate environment, and on top of it, you're working 2,800 hours in a year, which a normal person will make, work 2,080 hours in a year. We were working 2,800 and started to have kids with a family. It was a really tough job. So that's when I got out of it and started looking at other things to do. And I got with this group, and I got in with a couple really good guys that knew what they were doing and helped out a lot.
All right, now let's go back to the invention angle about it, because this is what we promised our audience here that we wanna tell them, okay, so when you decide you have to better the product, you have to make a product. Is the reason that you do it is because you're trying to avoid another knockoff, another guy who's going to feed off your success? Is that why you did it?
In that particular case, yes, but it was a company that we bought, so they already had the product. So it wasn't a product that I came up with per se. The one was there. What I had to come up with is to distinguish us from them in the marketplace. So we had to come up with we came up with a couple of different attachments that we patented, magnet therapy and probably a deep tissue and a couple things like that went with this high-end massager. The massager sold for anywhere from $200 to $250, so it was a high-end particular unit. But when you get caught up and here they're coming at you, you got to say, well, okay, now what do I do? And that was one of the things where it was like, okay, I've got to do something. I can't run away. We bought the company, so we have to follow through. So the big piece of that is saying, well, okay, now if I come up with that product, I change it. But I think what I got caught up into it right after that is I went into making, because it was a massager, I made a lot of massagers. Instead of now, I'm totally different the way I look at it. But back then it was like, let me make a back massager, let me make this massager. So I'm making all kinds of different massagers at that particular time. So it was different, and I think it's having the more breadth and looking for the product that fits the market need, as opposed to really looking for a product that's short term. You're looking for a long term or short term, where I'm trying to take a product, make it, and then cram it down that channel, as opposed to saying, hey, where is there a real need in the marketplace to be able to take it there? But I'll tell you a quick thing is this was early, this is the early 2000 time frame, and the massage market at that time, there really wasn't big massagers or big massage name in the market. There was Homedics that was coming around that they were hitting with this little finger type massager, and I was looking to get a brand name. So at that time, it was also important to me is to differentiate between the competition, but also from a branding standpoint, kind of like a trademark or something like that. If you can't get your own trademark or get one that you're going to use, you want to lay on someone else's to be able to stand out. So what I did is I went around to a couple different companies. I got connected with Stairmaster, which Stairmaster to me was a great name. We're selling high end, so we're going to do a deal with these guys. And I remember flying back out west to Washington, and they sent over a contract to do it, and it's like I said on it. So it arrived on a Saturday, which is odd for the corporate world because it's more expensive. So when it was there, it was like, well, am I going to do it or not do it? So it came to Wednesday, and it's like, well, I'm either in or I'm out. So we sent a check for like $100-something thousand, which was the initial licensing fee. And the guy calls up on Friday, and he goes, hey, we got to talk about something. It's like, well, okay. This was the president of it, and he said that we just filed bankruptcy on Thursday. He said, what do you want to do? I was like, well, I mean, I know what I want to do. I want to cancel the thing and run, right? But it was, what's fascinated me about that is I'm looking to be able to get in and get the brand. I'm a small guy. And here these guys they personally were not going to benefit from that, and they were looking to be able to bring an extra $100,000 into the coffers. Fortunately for me, when my check came the day after they filed bankruptcy, had it been the day before, it would have been included into the bankruptcy. And then after that time, I went to get a jacuzzi. So we met those guys that are actually in Miami, not too far from here, and went through this whole thing. We did a special chair for them. I love the jacuzzi name with the relaxing massage, and get to the end of it, we're signing a deal, and then the president gets fired. And then again, I'm looking at the Stairmaster deal, and I was doing a deal with Dick Butkus back then. We did like a small massage line for him, and we did spring-loaded boots and spring-loaded insoles for him. And we got in with the Stairmaster when we went through all this, and the guy says, I want to do business with this guy, and he ended up getting fired. So I spent a lot of time to be able to take these products that were, good products that we made that were unique, and so it was that search to try and find the niche for that particular product. And the other thing was we went to Target up in Minnesota, and we're there. We're walking in. We got to bring it in, and Dick was, because we were doing Dick's line of products. He wears his orange shirt, khakis. We all wore black, and we went in as like a team. And we were sitting there across from the guy, and he said, I want to buy from this guy. I've watched this guy forever. From the years, I want to work with him. I want to buy from him. And what happened was the guy said, well, look, he said, your products are nice, but he said, for what you're trying to sell us to, that's what we're selling for. So there's no way that we're going to be able to come in with you and buy that from you, even though we want to. And that ride home on the airplane, made me think. I said, look, I've got to be able to find it at the right price point, or be able to target it in the right place, to be able to find the product, to be able to make it go and grow from that. And that's when it changed from my standpoint. Is I took I went lower to be able to go higher. So we were able to make a lower and more inexpensive product to be able to get more breadth in the market, as opposed to maximize the price point from that side.
I'm glad you mentioned all that, because now listen, MJ here, he's going into the business not like a lot of my clients who are startup inventors and stuff like that. But look at all the pitfalls that he had. 3 pitfalls. He has one that's going bankrupt. He has one where he has the deal set, and then what happens is that the president gets fired right before the deal's fit. And then the last deal is that he presents himself with the right spokesperson, the right person to the right people. But there was one little issue at the point was that the people he presented it to, their buyers were a different market. Is that how I understood it, or no?
That's the way it is. But the thing of it is, it's a great lesson, because you learn. And then I had another product, and I totally changed my mindset from the inventing side. To me, inventing is not, I'm going to make one product, because a lot of inventors think, well, I make this product, everyone's going to buy it, everybody wants to pay me millions of dollars, which is great if you're have that lucky lottery ticket in your hand, which is very rare. So I look at it as a business. So if you're going to do business with the Sharp Image, the catalogs, the different companies like that, they don't want to see a one product type of guy, because it's a hassle to go set that account up. They want to be able to have someone that's there to say bring in multiple products, because it's easier for them. But I had a product I made, spent a lot on it, like $140,000 between the inventory and the molds and all that. It was a little hot and cold pack, and I took this thing around, I showed it to people. It would get to 42 degrees or 115 degrees. People put on, wow, it's a really great product. And when it came out, I came out with it. I had somebody pick it up, but the issue is that my cost on it was $26, and I need to sell it at $50. He's got to mark it up 100%, and then in addition to it, they were going to sell it at $100, and it didn't sell. Even though I didn't really do the right market surveys, because what I should have done is, if I had it, I should have taken an order. Should have said, hey, take your money, or not really take their money, but as if I was taking their money, and they're not cashed checks per se, because then I would have known whether they would have really bought it or not, at what price they would have bought it at, which is, I think, testing and finding out where the product price is really important, if I don't know how to speak. But the other side of that is what that taught me is, I will not do another product now unless I have it sold. Because now that if I do another product, I'll say, okay, if I have this sold, now I know at least I can get out of the product and not even have to sit on the money for 2 or 3 years, but I can actually turn it and make a profit.
So one of the keys in your experience was always to figure out, okay, who is the consumer of this product? Is there a market for the product? Am I going to get an advance for the product? Right, that's what you're looking at. And in the time that you were doing that, you didn't have Amazon, you didn't have eBay, you couldn't do the research. So were you just going based on a hunch? But not today with these guys, are new guys on Amazon, eBay. They're able to see what the sales are and what it takes and what products are selling, what lines. Would that have made your life a lot easier?
Well, there's no doubt, and I think now it makes a lot of people's lives easier, because they can go see what's selling and not selling, and with the overseas companies coming over, the Asian companies or whatever, it changes a lot to where Amazon at one time was more of the Walmart, the cheaper side, but really what it's becoming now, it's more coming back up. So a lot of times now with those products, it's not the cheaper, but what also has changed, because it kind of goes full circle. So it goes over that way. Yes, how do you sell it? What are you going to do? You can look at it, and the competition goes there. So I had a friend that went on there, and he sold his company for for $70 million, and you start from zero. And so there's good and bad, but from an inventing side, it's a great way to look at what's out in the market, what's going to sell a particular price point, but it's also a different method of selling, meaning that when you're on Amazon and you're selling on Amazon, they have those hundreds of thousands of customers coming on there every day, but how does that equate to you and where are you going to go? And just because you're on Amazon doesn't mean the product's going to sell. And the other side of it is that, okay, if I have a unique or different product that I want to sell, and now I put it on Amazon and I'm showing everybody else, and you don't have the right protection with the patent, whether it's a design patent or a utility patent or even trademarks from that side, what ends up happening is that you leave yourself vulnerable until you're ready. So you could have the best product in the world, and you can lose it all. And that's a big thing with a Kickstarter, which is a great thing, but I don't like the Kickstarter side like that, because now I'm showing everybody, if I don't have the protection, now I'm out there, and now that gives them the opportunity, because maybe they're better funded, maybe they have better distribution, they have better manufacturing, they have different capability, they can beat me to the market that I've seen many times. So one thing that I look for is, one, I'm looking for a product that's unique and different that can stand out from what's there, but I'm also looking for that customer for distribution. So before now I can call up someone at Sharper Image and say, hey, here's what I think about doing. Will you guys take this on? They'll tell you yes or no. And then I know that at least that one piece that I'm getting. I think that's one of the biggest challenges from an inventing standpoint, is saying, okay, which product do I do, and what don't I do, and where am I at? And sometimes you think you got a great idea. I can't tell you that I've made helped other people do products, and they've had products that you can search online. It's already out there. Now, just because it's out there doesn't mean that it can't sell or do whatever. It's what's going on, what happened with that one, and do you have do you have a lot of the financial fortitude to be able to survive it? Because if you go back in history and you look at Amazon over a 20-year period, they lost money almost every year, and the only way they were able to survive is because they were a public company. Most of the inventors and people like that can't take that kind of track record to the table or at the bank to be able to put it there. And it's a very risky business from an inventing side unless you have it sold. There's great rewards, but those rewards only come to a smaller percentage. And I think that if someone's going to look at it and they look at it more like a business and not get caught up in the emotional side, so, oh, that's my idea, or it's this or it's that, because it becomes their baby. To me, it's a vehicle, it's a tool to be able to take and sell down a particular channel versus something as far as, oh, this is what it was. Now, when I did the hot and cold pack as new technology, I love the tech, and I still do. I put it in other things, and it's hard, because not to be emotionally attached to what you make, and especially when someone might criticize it or say something like this. But we're in a different world, and we evolve a lot more from the standpoint of being able to sell it. So now you can take products that maybe aren't as good and be able to sell it and still make money. And the difference of it is, with an invention, is and what's my goal for the invention? Am I trying to go in and I'm trying to create a job to make a living, to replace my job, or am I trying to build a real business that I can actually build and sell down the road? And I think that's a big part of it. And whether I'm going to buy a business or sell a business, if I have a product, can I buy another business and maybe add other products to that, like an invention or whatever the case may be, for that distribution?
That's a very good point, and we're going to talk about your books. He's hit on all 3 books that he's written, all #1 bestsellers on Amazon. We're going to talk about each one of them. We got an invention book. We also have a business development book, and we also have the exit strategy, how to sell your business. But before we do that, when you have do you license license inventions for other inventors? You buy them outright? Is that the case?
Sometimes, yes. It depends on what it is. Sometimes.
Now, my question is, what do you advise that independent inventor? What do you that the guy is working a 9 to 5, or maybe he's not. Maybe he's making $100,000 a year. In my experience, that's not enough to take a product to market. You need a lot of more money. You need a lot of branding money. You got to do molds. You mentioned molds before. You have to find the right source. You're probably going to get burned 2-3 times finding the right source, because it happens. You're going to have to do packaging. one man, it's very hard for one man to do everything. And if you had the problems that you mentioned, imagine someone who doesn't have that know-how from running other companies doing this as an independent inventor. What is the realistic goal that you advise to an independent inventor who may have the best product in the whole world? How does he get his product to you, to a bigger company, to the market? What do you advise?
So one, it depends on what the product is and what market that it's going to. So and you're touching on one of the biggest things. So there was a group in the Tampa area before that were actually financing inventions. They would come out, someone would come to them, pitch them the thing, they would finance it. Well, they're not around anymore because one, it takes a lot more money than people think, and it also takes a lot of, call it relationships and the distribution channels to be able to put it down. But the bottom line of it is, if you don't have inventory, you can't sell it. But if I can go get a purchase order, now I might be able to finance that and be able to get some inventory. But the biggest issue after that is when it starts to sell. That's a good and bad problem. It's a great problem. I got more sales. It's a bad problem because I can't fill them. And once I fail to fulfill that, now I lose my relationship with that person that's buying it from me. It could be a big company. So there's always that balance to be able to say, can I take it out? And can you take certain products and be able to make it, winners from that side? Absolutely. And can you find friends and families to help and finance it? It's harder to do it, but it depends on what the product is. It depends on what the price point is, and it depends on how much risk that you're willing to take, because there are ways that you can finance that yourself depending on what it is. Or you can go out and get credit cards or credit or finance. I mean, obviously it's risky, but like I said, I've learned the lesson that no more will I do any products unless I have it sold. So that's kind of the hard lesson for me, because you sit on that for a while, and it depends on where your space is. And there are times where you can find a partner that's there. So if I were an inventor, I had a product, I didn't have a lot of money to be able to take it to, and let's say it was in a certain niche, whether it's medical or anything like that, I would try and find somebody who would sell my product that believed in what I did, and I would go to them. Obviously, I'd sign an NDA, and I'd want to have as much protection as I could have, whether it's patent, design or utility or the trademarks or whatever the case may be. I want to make sure I got as much protection, sign an NDA, go to them and see if they wouldn't take it on. But the reality of it is, you might go to 10 of those people and they might tell you no, and it might be the 20th one that tells you yes. But that nowadays is having that right presentation, especially so you might spend $5,000 in a good presentation to go to the person, but that $5,000 could get your product off the ground, as opposed to you walking in with some duct tape piece of thing. There's, hey, will you do it? So I think the presentation is important, and also being able to say, well, look, you guys bring this in, you're going to be able to make this money. Now your side is that you're going to make less money on that. I'll give you an example of one thing that I went through with the spring-loaded insoles. Back then, the money was tight. I did this with a guy in out of Kansas City, and he was a big guy, had a great background, but I got in with them, and what I didn't do is I didn't have my contract tight enough, and I was a small guy. We got in and we were selling 100,000 of these units, doing really well, and my cut was a couple bucks or whatever it is on it. It was a good margin product, but he got to the point, and it's the same thing with a lot of business owners, with salespeople. They look at it, when the money comes in the door, their attitude changes when I've got to pay the money out, especially when it's a significant amount, and they don't feel like you've contributed as much as they have per se. So he cut me out of the deal, and then they ended up selling the company to another bigger company, but fortunately I was in between my patents. We had the patent pending, and then I ended up getting the patent, and then once I got the patent, I was able to go back to those guys and get the product back, and fortunately I was able to rekindle that distribution channel.
Well, that shows the importance of patent protection. But the other thing is, where I'm glad that you were talking about the whole thing, is that you said, okay, I have the buyer. I have to find the buyer of the product. Now, but before you get there, you also said another thing, is that you want to make sure that you have a provisional patent or a non-provisional patent starter, in order so hey, I'm going to present this to someone who's going to buy this product, who's got the firepower to make the same product I have. So I better have something besides the confidentiality agreement to stop him from stepping on me and maybe killing my dream. But the other thing I liked that what you said with all that was that, so the first thing in your book is, first thing is secure your invention. The second step is find a buyer. But it just comes, for me to be reasonable, before I go look for that investor, should I find the end buyer? That way that investor is that willing to put his money into the game. If I say I got this order going here, right, all I need is so much money for this product, and if I could deliver the product based on the order, I got the pre-contract already signed here, would that make your life a lot easier as an inventor?
If you get an order, you should be able to get it done. It's literally, that straightforward. Whether it's a purchase order, you can sometimes finance that dependent, but it's creative, excuse me, it's the creative financing side of it to be able to do it. But if you have something that's real, something that's tangible, that people can actually see, feel, touch, and then they believe in what it is, especially with it, that's my social proof that shows that it's there. You see it on the internet a lot of times right now. I bought this, I bought that. That's, you show me a big purchase order, and I'll show you a product that I can make and get to market.
So you need a big purchase order in order to go finance the house. You
Absolutely.
cannot finance that house without that big purchase order.
Not me.
Now listen, this is important for you guys to learn. Do not go finance the house. Make sure you're going to see that money. All right? I don't want to see you renting an apartment and saying, damn, what did I just do? Do not finance the house unless you got a contract that you know is going to pay that money you borrowed to get that product out to market. Would you agree with that statement?
I would definitely agree with it, because I've known a lot of people that have done that, and they end up. The worst part about it is, and the hardest thing from a side is that no matter what you're doing, it's you, right? But the reality of it is, it's not just you; it's your family, it's the other people that you're affecting too. So when you make decisions, regardless of whatever those decisions are, is how are those decisions going to affect the other ones around you? So if I go and take the next 20, 30, 50 grand or my 2-year salary and go invest it in this, well, occasionally people get lucky and get it that way, but you can do that. You have to keep in mind, one, what am I doing with the family side? The other side of it is okay, what's the probability of success? It could still be low, but that doesn't mean that you're not going to try and do it. But how can I do it and not risk as much and take away from my family? I mean, how can I do it and not put too much out that I sink everybody?
Well, or you may be visiting the divorce attorney, right? When everything hits the, what it hits.
But is that always a bad thing?
Well, sometimes it's time to get out. Sometimes it's time to get out. I agree.
I'm kidding.
So, I mean, if you plan it that way, I guess we could also look at it that way. That is true, though. Sometimes you roll the dice saying, well, I hope I get snake eyes or come on, baby, let's do it. Let's bankrupt the bank. So let me tell you something. Let's talk about your first book, Invent Like a Champ. Tell me what made you write this book.
Well, I wrote it to share the experiences that I went through to help other inventors to be able to follow those steps to make it easier. So in other words, I took my experience and pushed it back into it to where it's pretty simple. It's simply written, for an average type person. And also it has the steps in there to be able to say, well, okay, here's where you're at. These are the things you should do, and not take the risk and bet the farm all the way through, but also have the possibility to be able to get the product to the market.
Okay. Now, going back one step, in your Invent Like a Champ, what do you suggest? Do you suggest that they go immediately after getting that patent pending, or that device, or the non-provisional patent, where the provisional, non-provisional? Do you advise them to go make a prototype, a mold immediately, or do you advise them first you might want to find a buyer for that product?
It's a good question. One, it depends on the product, because sometimes if the product is so unique, you don't want to put it out there until you would have something and maybe all the protection. Sometimes you might make 2, 3, 4 years to have that. They've changed the patent thing. Now you can pay more and get them sooner than what you could in the past. So that's a factor. But the one thing that I would look at is, I would say, well, okay, do I make a prototype? Yes, I can make a prototype, whether it's got duct tape, whatever it is, if it's functional. And then I can always take that same prototype, especially today. Back when I was doing it, they didn't have 3D printers. They didn't have a lot of the technology that they had now to where you can make it. So now you could almost make that same product and do it out of automation and use that as an example that looks really professional to be able to open up the door to show the people nowadays. And because when I was doing it, again, it's changed a lot. We would take a product down to the beach or something like that, show them, be able to get the reactions to see how the people like it or don't like it. But that's only part of the story, because part of the story is that a lot of times the people aren't going to be upfront with you because they don't want to hurt your feelings or whatever the case may be, to where I think it's important to say, try and get their payment to be able to see if it's real or it's not real. I think that was one of the hardest learning ones. Do I really have something that's going to sell or not sell, even though someone says, oh yeah, I'll buy it? Because a lot of times with your friends and family, oh, it's a great idea, oh, go. And when it comes out to actually selling it, they're not doing it, or they're not, like that hot and cold pack I was talking about, they're not paying the price that cost me to make it. I can't sell it at that. If I could sell it at $50, which is the price all day long, I could, but I can't make any money doing it.
What happened with that cold pack? How did you come out even? Did you end up losing? Do you have it in a storage somewhere? Is it just there like a monument to what not to do? Tell me what happened with that.
So a little of all. so made it. It took a little while to move it. It was a really good item, but I took that same technology. I put it with a TENS unit, which is a healthcare item for pain relief. I had a hot and cold thing in it. They made the back cover of Sharper Image and turned out to be a good item. So that technology in that particular form there didn't work, but when it was modified and maybe the cost cut down with a different item, it did work.
How long did it take you to get to a buyer such as Sharper Image? How much work, how much effort, how much money did it take you to actually get to an end buyer? That Sharper Image.
So great question. It's kind of like so again, now it's a little bit different, but back then I used a broker. So I could go to someone that has a relationship with them, or I could try and create my own, which is really hard, because you got to imagine that every day in their inbox, this is coming through. But if they have a friend that's doing business with now, I'd rather pay the 5 or 10% than go through them.
Now, do the brokers ask you for a fee up front, or do they just ask for a percentage of the product?
Percentage of the sales.
So in other words, if they believe they sell the product, you won't have to come up out of pocket.
If you're coming out of pocket, I'd be a little skeptical.
About the broker.
Absolutely.
Going back to that, because before we get to the second book that you have, and this will be the last question about patents, when you go to the prototype company, can you give 3 or 4 things that you can give our independent inventors, entrepreneurs here, that they should be looking for in a prototype company that can maybe help them deliver a product to the end buyer?
So there's for the prototype standpoint, there's different kinds of prototypes. There's a prototype to be able to make it so that I can go make it and have it manufactured. So there's a production prototype and there's a prototype. So if I'm making a prototype, a lot of times they're really expensive to make, and can I turn around and sell that enough to get it? But my problem is that when I pay $50 or $60 $1,000 or wherever that amount is for that prototype, now I've got to turn around and do the exact same over again with the manufacturer. So I got to have a production prototype. So a lot of times, from my experiences, I want to go to the production prototype first, because then I'm only paying that cost first. It costs you a little, it's a lot less, but it costs you, say, a little bit more overall, but you're actually getting molds and you're able to manufacture it as opposed to I want to, and I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with that, the prototype. There's reasons why you might want to have that, because I might want to just make that and not go any farther, because maybe it doesn't sell because I can take it. Because if I actually have a real prototype, I can actually show that to people. They can touch it and feel it and be able to take orders off of that. And if I'm going to do the production one, which is the way that I go, it takes a little bit longer, because you've got to go to the manufacturer and then be able to bring it back.
Okay. So, but what? Okay, when you go to the manufacturer, are you going to U.S. manufacturers, European manufacturers? In Asia, or the one how do you not get burnt by the manufacturers?
I don't now, and I know people that have. So the ones that I have relationships with now are 15 years plus. But I know people that have sent $50,000-$100,000 because they can set up a website. They look legit and they're not. And I think with Alibaba for the Chinese right now, they've created a system to where now you're paying Alibaba to where you're guaranteed to be able to get your product to be happy. So it's changed a little bit. I do it so it depends on what the product is. So I might do it in Pakistan if it's more material kind of thing. A lot in say China and also Korea. So there's variations of where it is, and then being able to make it from that side. So cost sometimes a factor, but it's not just cost. It's being able, what do you have, and how can you present that in a way that you have the value for what it is that the people will pay for it.
With regards to the invention book that you have, where can people buy this book?
They can get it on Amazon.
Amazon. And when they buy the book from you, will they be able to find your contact information in case they need mentoring or they want to present their product to you so you can take it to another level? Is that on the book, or is there somewhere else, some other manner that they can contact you?
Well, when I did that book, I don't think that one's in there as much as it is in the newer books right now. But they could always get me at LinkedIn.
They can get your LinkedIn.
Yeah, absolutely.
And how would they find you on LinkedIn?
Julian.
MJ Julian. MJ Julian at LinkedIn. If you want to get to speak to MJ, you can go over there, look him up on LinkedIn. He'll be more than happy to help you out. Now let's go to the second book. What was the second book about? How do you be a business baller? That's a pretty ballsy title. Mm-hmm. Explain this book. Explain the title. Give us a little insight.
So doing so many business purchases, joint ventures, and different things like that over the time. And it took like 3 years to write the book. I put a lot in it, but what I wanted to do is I wanted to make it more like a manual, so that you could actually go to it like a reference manual. You could go in, this chapter or this section, to where you could actually switch to it. Let me look at this, whether it's a marketing side or that. But that's a culmination of years of experience from buying and selling to companies, doing inventions, doing joint ventures. That's compiled into one. It's like a 500-page book, somewhere in that range.
I believe I read it. So it's a very good reference book that someone who's new to the business could read there, and then you don't have to read it straight. You can go from chapter to chapter depending on word stage of developing your business. Mm-hmm. Is that the way you wrote it?
Yes. So they can go to segment by segment. Yes. So depending on where you're at, you can kind of, this is my issue. You can go look on the table of contents. Hey, here's my problem. Pop. So it shows, it's got a lot of examples of what other people have done with some of the things we've done, some of the people I've worked with as well, that says, okay, I have this thing, how do I do that? I mean, an example of that is that we had a company that was pretty much going out of business. They had good infrastructure, they had everything, and we went and bought a company that was another one that was pretty much dying, and we rolled that into it. So we basically doubled their customer base without a lot of costs, and we were able to structure that deal as a payout over time, to where they got paid out 10% over like a 4-year period. So that's how they got their money back. But at the same time, that brought immediate business to that other business that took it off the bottom and brought it up right away.
So it helped you acquire. You're teaching them how to acquire businesses without having to fork everything out of your pocket, giving the person that's selling your business an incentive, while you're at the same time allowing yourself more economic capital to grow other businesses. Is that what you're doing, or no?
That's one segment, and part of it is a misnomer about a business. A lot of people are intimidated. I want to purchase a business, and because it's so much money, and sometimes it is, but it's not every business that you have to buy. It's just the right business that fits for where you're at, and it doesn't always mean that if I'm doing no money down deal, that doesn't mean that the owner or that they are actually not going to get any money when the deal closed, because I could bring a partner in, I could finance part of it. There's all kinds of different ways to be able to do a business, to be able to take it that you have. I mean, we had one business where we took it and we bought it, we closed on Friday, we liquidated the business, we took the workers and the other business over to heavy manufacturing, and on Monday we're rolling new orders in, so that just strengthened that. So there's a lot, I mean, many different ones. I'll tell you, we bought another business, and it was a payment down of like $100,000. We bought the business. There's $200,000 in a bank account. We gave the guy a deferred down payment. We gave him $100,000 out of the business bank account, and then we just paid them out over time. Now, I got to add the one thing. The one thing with that one is there were two segments to that business. One made wire carriers. Another one made printing newspaper big long lays. And at that time, thinking that we're smarter than what we really were, the sales guy, so in a business, who has the relationship with the customers? That's the key. So we thought it was the owner. He was really 75, somewhere around there. He was wanting to get out, and there was the sales guy that was there too. Well, the sales guy, my partners was a great sales guy. We said, well, we need this guy. He can just come in and take it, no problem. I think we were doing like $4 million at the time, and so we got rid of the sales guy. No more than 2 months later, 80% of the business was gone to someone else. So there's always a lesson in there to be able to take it. Where are you going to take that, and how do you grow that particular business? So there's a lot of factors, but it's something to definitely look at. It's something to say, how can I acquire that? And the most important thing with any business I always ask almost everybody that. Let me ask you, what do you think the most important thing is in any business?
If I'm going to do a business, what I want to know is what my exit strategy is.
But what's the most important thing in the business?
Or in the business,
Yeah.
I believe the communication between your employees and the public. If you don't have that communication, your business is not going to go anywhere. If you have very charismatic people, if you got people who talk to other people, who listen to people buying the product, then you will eventually figure out what the product you want to sell or what the services you are. If you have arrogant people, if you have people who just don't want to listen, you'll never know what the market is demanding. So I really believe in one-on-one contacts to figure out what is it that the person in front of me wants, what is it their clients want, their customers want. If I can figure that out, I'm already won half the battle. That's what I think. But what do you think is more important?
Well, I think it's distribution.
Well, distribution.
If you have a customer base, like you said, you can sell them anything. You're asking the customer, what do you want? Because as long as you have customers, now I'm way ahead of the game. If I have no customers, it's harder. So if I have the distribution, I'm good, because I can put anything with it. I can take other products and put it down that distribution. I can do so much more with that customer base.
I understand. So once you have established one distribution channel, you just try to fit other products into that same distribution channel that's already being fed, and you know what those clients want, so it's easier to put other products in that same channel. Is that what you're kind of alluding to?
Well, you have a relationship with you. They know you, they trust you, they like you because they're buying from them. And if you're putting something else down there, that's like your friend saying, hey, you should get this. So there's a couple ways to do that. One is, am I taking somebody else's product and putting it down there? Or two, am I taking another product that I'm putting in there and putting it down? So it's kind of like, if I'm just selling supplements, something else I could do with supplements is I might be able to take, exercise programs. I might be able to take other types of hard goods like a LED face mask, or fat type units to be able to lose weight, or bracing, or whatever the case may be that might fit that particular clothes. There's so many different things. Not everything fits, but if I have a relationship, I'm good. An example is look, a lot of people don't know. Look, Radio Shack went bankrupt. Pier 1 went bankrupt. Sharper Image went bankrupt. Brookstones went bankrupt. All these companies went bankrupt, and people don't know or care because that brand is carried on. So they still have that customer base that they're still selling to, or someone else that sells to them.
I agree. Now let's talk about the last book, How to Sell Your Business. This is the exit strategy. Let's do a little. We got to be a little quicker because I think our time is running out. But give us 10 things. What are the most 5 most important things? First of all, how did you come up with the book? Then, what do you advise people that are thinking of selling their business?
So one of the most important things when you get into a business that you want to get out. Right, you want to be able to cash out, or one way or another. And with that, what ends up happening is a lot of times 80% don't sell for one reason or another. And they could sell because they want too much money, that it might not be a good business, that it could be a good business and someone else doesn't want to take it over from the family. So there's a lot of factors that drive that. So if you got to know, one is, you got to plan to exit from day one. So now I can get, SOPs, I can have, standards that are set up, I can be able to have the product. I'm gearing that business all the way. So I'm looking at, call it, my value gap, to be able to say, well, okay, the business is valued at this, the best in the class business is valued at that. What separates me from them, and what can I do to be able to maximize it? Because when you're selling a business, it's built pretty much off a multiple. It could be a sales multiple, it could be 2 times, 3 times net income. There's a lot of factors that drive that. And if I can figure out how to maximize that in the beginning, not only will you make more money along the way, you'll get a lot more money when you're selling it. So definitely having an SOP is key. Also being able to have, like you were saying earlier, about having the good people and being able to develop the systems and having a good structure from a marketing standpoint to say, okay, here's where it's at. So there's very few ways to really grow the business. There's many ways inside, but as far as the top side, so you're going to look at, you got to get more, if you're going to get more customers, right? That's the most expensive. I got to get the customers to buy more often, and then I got to get the customers to buy for more money, right? And then in addition to that, I'm going to look at, okay, if I want to continue to grow the business, I might add a new product or service every year or every so often. Then and the other side of that is, I'm going to say, okay, now if I'm going to have that, I need to maybe buy competition or bring something else to the table. So, and the other piece would be, is I'm looking to joint venture, like we talked about. So, and the other way in that is, the other way is to get lucky. But if I take those 7 fundamentals and I'm making a quarterly objectives, I might not be every single one every quarter, but I'm periodically looking to be able to grow that particular business. And now when I do that, now at the end when you're selling, it's going to be so much more valuable, because now you have, call it a thick cut, as opposed to just that one product that's out there selling and selling.
That makes a lot of sense. What's the last thing you want to tell our audience over here in the Doral area, Miami area? The Doral area, as you know, is I'm not sure if you're certain, because I know you're not from this area. It's a middle to upper income area. It's got a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of businesses, a lot of people coming from overseas, a lot of inventions. Basically, this is not an up and coming, because it's already here, but it's an area that has a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of dreams. Everybody's here to try to make it. They're all on the way up. They're not trying to desire. It's a very young city. What would you advise us? What are your last words to our audience?
Well, I think the most important thing is that we're all limited on time, right? However you want to define that. And I think it's being able to pick where they're going to go and what they want to do, whatever their goal is or their objective. And the most important thing is taking that goal, breaking it all the way down to action steps, and then taking action. But it's not easy. It's not an easy road. And a lot of them, quit. And sometimes it's beating your head against the wall, again and again and again, to be able to achieve that. And I think that's what separates the people that actually go and are successful long term versus the one that's not, because it's not easy. And a lot of people, but if you're not swinging the bat, you're never going to hit anything.
I think, like Napoleon Hill said, mastermind, right? You have to have perseverance. Perseverance, you have to believe. Mm-hmm. If you don't believe in your business, more than likely it's not going to happen. Would you agree?
I think 100%.
And when you hit that, when you fall down, what do you got to do? Just get back up and persevere and keep going, right? Keep swinging that axe, because it's not sooner or later it's got to happen. That's the way I look at it. But
also you have to change the strategy. So if you're going down there, you have that one strategy and you're swinging it and it's not working, well, you can't keep swinging it. You got to change the way you're swinging. You might change what you're swinging, right? Or change what you're swinging at. I think that's kind of the key to where you have to adjust your thing, instead of saying, well, I tried this, I did this, I tried everything to be able to get it. So what the things did you try? Well, I tried these 5 things and I kept doing them over and over again. You know what? If you would have done number 6 or number 7, you would have had a $40 million business.
I agree. 100% agree with that. MJ, thank you so much for being here at Doral Voice. Again, this is Ruben Alcoba, Alcoba Law Group, 305-362-8118, 305-362-8118. I'm over here ready to answer your phone calls at the office. I'm helping you here to file your inventions, file your trademarks. Mr. MJ talked about trademarks. It's not just the inventions, it's what you want to call these products, because in the end, it's all about distribution and marketing. You want people to find your product. That would have to do with your trademarks. As MJ told you, you can find him as MJ Julian at LinkedIn, MJ Julian LinkedIn. You can contact him. He could help you take your products to another level. He could also maybe help you find distributors in China, Asia, wherever they may be, and maybe if he ends up liking your product, maybe he'll help you, coach you to get to another level. You know, always is a business relationship, of course. But MJ, thank you so much. Alcoba Law Group, thanks to Doral Voice. Thank you for our community, and we look forward to seeing and talking to you in the future. Thank you.